Hello! So, this month is a very important time for Muslims around the world. It's Ramadan. Today, I'm going to be talking about Islam and Ramadan. Islam is the religion of Muslims. There are almost 2 billion Muslims in the world. Islam is an Abrahamic religion, like Christianity and Judaism. And like Christianity, it has only one God, who is called Allah. Some famous Muslims are Malala Yousafzai, Mohamed Salah, who plays for Liverpool Football Club, Munir, who plays for Sevilla, and Zayn Malik from One Direction. The Islamic holy month of Ramadan began on the 23rd of April. Every year, the date is different because it starts at the 9th month of the lunar calendar. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims won't eat or drink between sunrise and sunset. This is called fasting. So Muslims who fast have to eat their meals after sunset or before sunrise. When the sun has gone down, usually families and friends will get together for iftar to break their fast. However, this year's Ramadan is a little bit different. The coronavirus pandemic means that many people are not able to visit friends or family or their local mosque. I interviewed my friend Lulu from university and asked her some questions about her experience of Ramadan and fasting. I hope you learned something. Bye! Hi Lulu.
Hi, Karis.
So, where are you at the moment?
I'm
And how is the lockdown there?
in Saudi Arabia, and the lockdown's good. It's quite strict, but it's good.
Mm-hmm. And are you allowed out to exercise, for example?
Yeah, you're allowed out to exercise, but there is a curfew at 6 p.m. So after that, you're not allowed out unless it's an emergency.
So why is Ramadan celebrated, and what actually does Ramadan represent?
Okay, so Ramadan is the 9th month in our Islamic calendar. So it's a month of fasting. So we fast from sunrise to sunset.
So fasting is when you don't eat or drink all day or for an extended period of time?
Yeah, and it's also a time where the whole month is meant for like self-reflection and spiritual reflection, like self-improvement. So you spend the month like connecting with your family and like focusing on prayer and becoming better. So that's why it's also a month where we don't participate in like any sinful behavior. So we don't swear. We try and focus on things we think are important, and we focus on helping other people. So it's a time where you're meant to fast so you can be grateful for what you have and like also feel like how people less fortunate than you feel. So people think of it as we're eating less so people have more access to food. That's kind of like an underlying idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is there an element of charity at all?
Yeah. So we have a thing called zakat. So throughout the month, it's compulsory charity. So you have to give back.
Okay, my next question. So, is it difficult to fast to not eat or drink all day? Because I imagine, for example, Saudi Arabia is quite hot at the moment. Is it difficult to go through the day?
Maybe at first, so like your first Ramadan might be hard, but for us now, it's quite easy. Like I don't feel it unless it's a very super long day. So the days aren't that long here. We sunset is around like 6:50. So and sunrise, we have to stop fasting at 4:30 a.m. So it's not a long day at all. So we're really grateful for that here. But in the UK, when I was fasting, it was from 2 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then it was just the last hour that was difficult because you just treat it as a normal day, so you do get distracted and you eat before you have to stop fasting, so that's meant to carry you along, so you just shift your eating patterns.
So you just eat at night, really?
Yeah, eat at night. So I find it quite easy now. I don't notice how difficult it is anymore, maybe because I'm used to it. But if someone else were to try it for the first time, I feel like it would be quite hard. Like all my little siblings, they're fine. No one really struggles anymore. But it's always like your first one is like brand new, so obviously it's going to be quite a transition, quite hard to do.
And when was the first year you fasted?
So you're meant to start when you hit puberty, when you're
Hmm.
like old enough to recognize why you're fasting.
Uh-huh.
But I started I think maybe I was like 8. I saw my family doing it, so I'd do like half days.
Hmm.
So I'd like do as much as I can. And then after that, just once you start, it gets easier. So you just, as soon as you're capable of doing it, you can do it. But they don't start counting till you hit puberty because then you're
Hmm.
like old enough to recognize why you're fasting.
Yeah. Okay, so does everybody fast, or are there some exceptions?
If you're capable of fasting, you fast. But if you're pregnant, if you're sick, if you have your period, if you're traveling, you don't have to fast. So if anything, if fasting would affect your health negatively, you don't have to fast.
Hmm. So
And if
people
you're traveling, yeah.
people in hospital wouldn't be expected to fast, for example.
No. So like if you're sick, you don't have to fast. If you have diabetes, you don't have to fast. So
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
when girls get their periods, sometimes it's like 3 days, sometimes it's a week. You just keep a note of how many days you missed and then you make it up after before the next Ramadan.
Okay.
So if you have like a long-term illness, like it's kind of chronic, you can't do anything about it, you don't have to fast at all. But if
Mhm.
you're like really sick during the month and then you're like in perfect health after, you make it up over the year before the next Ramadan.
Ah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and what normally happens at the end of Ramadan? How do you celebrate?
So at the end of Ramadan, it's called Eid al-Fitr. So it's like basically you're celebrating breaking fast so you can eat normally and everything. So it's just like a religious holiday and it's celebrated by like all Muslims. So basically a lot of people will get something called like a Eidi. It's kind of like your family will give you money basically. But it's basically you just celebrate end of Ramadan. So you just eat normally, spend time with family. Like a lot of people will dress up. So it's like an I think you'll see like a lot of people, a lot of Muslims, like they'll on Eid they'll dress up and like do their makeup and just hang around with family.
And is there like a particular dish or something that you would eat? Is there like any typical food that you would celebrate Ramadan with?
Um, it's like dependent on culture. So
Hmm.
wherever the family is from, they have a different meal that they would like to celebrate with.
Hmm.
So like during Ramadan, it's like traditional to break fast with like a date and like water.
Hmm.
So that's just copying what Prophet Muhammad did in his time. Like he would break with 3 or 4 dates and water because that's what he had.
Okay, so my last question is, so how is this year different, this Ramadan different because of coronavirus?
Um,
Because I
so
imagine you can't go to the mosque, for example.
yeah. So we have like a prayer. It's called prayer. It's like our nighttime prayer. So most people we go to the mosque and we pray like we pray Jama'ah, which is pray together.
Hmm.
And so we can't do that obviously because of social distancing and stuff. So most people will either pray at home. It's mainly just kind of adjust to normal day at home, basically. Like my family and I, we stay at home a lot anyways, so it's not that big of a transition during the month. It is kind of hard to do zakat, so you can't really, it's harder to give charity in person. And
Yeah. Hmm.
and Ramadan is quite like it's nice to be in a community when you're fasting or like breaking fast, and a lot of people will be isolated. So I'm lucky because I got to get come home.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'd be breaking fast alone every day and not seeing
Hmm.
everyone every day. So a lot of people who are isolating on their own will be like breaking fast alone, eating alone,
Hmm.
praying alone. So it's kind of like you're very isolated.
Bye, Lulu. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.